And here we go. What's going on, everybody? Happy Labor Day, Monday evening. The kiddos listening to this, why are you listening to this? This is a new channel. You got school in the morning. School in the States. If you're new to the channel, a lot of us are located out of Canada. I guess school, most places down in the States, is already going. Where up here in Canada, school doesn't start till after Labor Day. Either way, not a channel for children to be listening to. This is Fandom Empire Live, and I'm Sean, and thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your Labor Day Monday to just sit down and talk about, in my opinion, something that has been attempted for a while now and just hasn't come to be, and that is, should the Halloween franchise go back to 1963? Now, obviously, we've seen a little bit of the origins of Michael Myers in Rob Zombie's movie. Obviously, a very different take as well. A take that I think a lot of people maybe weren't overly keen for. Might be the way I would word it. So I know we all have our idea on what a Halloween movie should be, or what we want out of the next Halloween movie. Maybe it's something you didn't get out of these movies that just came out. But for me personally, I think it goes a lot deeper than that, because, you know, we can wish for the best Halloween movie of all time, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. You know? There's so many variables. And I think being realistic when you talk about what comes next, you can eliminate a bunch of stuff. Now, they could go the route of, let's just do something we've done before. But you're coming off of Rob Zombie's remakes and David Gordon Green's trilogy. Those are the last five Halloween movies. I would hazard to guess that whatever comes next is going to be just a little bit different. It could be a different story altogether, much in the way of Halloween 3. But I don't think they'll go there. Michael Myers is too marketable. I'm not saying they're never going to do anything again with Halloween 3 either. I do believe that's something that'll get touched again. But that being said, what's the point of another Halloween movie if it's going to be the same thing we've already gotten? don't know about the rest of you. If I want to watch what we already have, just pop in a Blu-ray, or a VHS. I don't know anybody who still watches VHS. You get the gist of it. I think whatever comes next is going to be different. Now, not only was a flashback to 1963 heavily discussed for Halloween Ends and was on the table at one point, if you dive into Dustin McNeil and Travis Mullen's Taking Shape 2, you find out that a lot of times over the last few Halloween projects that have come to light, they have almost always explored the idea of going back to 1963. Now, when you think about it, because you can't count zombies movies, they don't start in 1963. Everybody talks about that opening sequence, that classic one shot. I think, honestly, when we break it all down, Halloween 1, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, 5, 6, to an extent, H2O and Resurrection all are based off of Halloween 1. And even, really, if you want to get technical with it, so are the new 3 movies. So technically, every Halloween movie ever made, with the exception of Halloween 3 and Rob Zombie's 2 movies, have been made on some level to follow up John Carpenter's original. And yet, when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, we don't spend a whole lot of time in 1963. It comes and it goes in the blink of an eye. It's creepy, and I think part of what makes it creepy is there's so many unknown elements, and sometimes you don't need everything explained to you on screen. Sometimes it's better for the imagination if it's not explained on screen. So for me, I as long as they don't overkill it and explain every little thing that you may or may not see. Sorry, I didn't even realize this hadn't saved. As long as they don't over-explain it and you don't see everything and everything has to have a detailed explanation. The idea of going back to 1963, and not necessarily for the full movie, but maybe the first half an hour or 40 minutes of the movie, is on that night, because we literally just pick up and Michael's walking in the classic Myers house and he guts his sister, right? So the idea, Toronto Freddy brings up in the chat, Corey should have been introduced in Halloween 2018. His character doesn't feel lived in enough for ends. I agree with that. And again, I'm not a Halloween Ends guy. I actually, the part I like the most about Halloween Ends, outside of the way it was shot, is Corey. And yet, because he just sort of comes out of nowhere, it takes a little bit from it. But at least at the beginning of the movie, really, not just the beginning of the movie, right up until he's thrown off the bridge, really, we get an idea why he does what he does, but we don't necessarily understand why he was already the way he was, if that makes sense. We know why he becomes a killer. He gets wronged, more or less. But to me, there's something about the character, the way it's presented in that opening scene of Halloween Ends, where it's like, okay, no, this guy's already maybe not necessarily on the level. I'm not saying he had mass murder on his mind by any means, but so like we were given a little bit of mystery, but the rest was filled in. I'm not saying we need to go back to 1963 in whatever comes next and have everything explained, But I do like the idea of going back to 1963 and maybe playing out that whole Halloween day. You know, it obviously happens in the evening, but the idea that we could go back and see Michael and what Michael was doing, or, you know, what made Michael, you know, do what he did, or something along those lines, I think would be appealing. I think I would love to see a much different take on Michael and Loomis than what we got with Zombies movie. Because the Michael that's in that movie, even with Dag playing him there, it's not the Michael from John Carpenter's classic. Even as a kid, he's not. He's completely different than what we get in that original movie. I like the idea of meeting the kid that we saw standing there holding the knife as his parents came up to him at the beginning of the opening classic, and meeting that kid and having Loomis meet that kid. Now, the whole movie can't be that, but I do think there's so many missed opportunities with 1963. But I do think they run into the problem of what do you do and how do you not go overboard? Because this is something now that's been attempted that I can count anyways 3 different times. It was heavily considered for Halloween Ends to a point where I thought it was in it, as well as a few other people did. And then if you read the Taken Shape 2 book, they talk about 2 other times where 1963 is heavily considered and pursued, but ultimately didn't happen. So it's not like they haven't had a thought of doing it. They most certainly have. It just, you know, hasn't come to light yet. And I think, you know, you can screw it up. That's the thing. Like, if you're going to go back and spend time with Michael as a kid, or even in Haddonfield, more or less in 1963, maybe Michael's not necessarily the focus, but if you're paying attention, you're picking up on things that might involve him. I think it could be intriguing. And yet at the same time, they could, you know, for the lack of a better term, blow their brains out over the wall by screwing it up. And then it's the question of, you're not doing it just for the sake of doing it. That's the ultimate thing, right? Like, hey, let's go back to 1963. We would like to see it in a Halloween movie, even in a Halloween TV show. But there has to be a reason. What's the motive to go back and show that? What are we building after that? Where are we going after that? You know, do you do a retelling of the classic, which I know some people would like it, some people wouldn't. I don't want that. So you'd have to go somewhere else with it. And my train of thought is, you have, for me anyways, there's 2 roads I'd really like to see. It's we go the 1963 route, which leads to something post the original movie. That's not just like a retread of Halloween 2018. I'd want it to be a period piece. You know, I wouldn't want to fast forward 40 years. If we're going off the original movie, maybe it's still happening that same night. Maybe it's happening 1979. You know, maybe we go 1 year later, even a couple years later. Let's go back. I don't want to be in this time, unless, you know, if you're presenting a Michael Myers movie, you know, in 2028 or whatever, I'm fine with it being in the year 2028 or 25 or 26, whatever. But for me, I would like a fresh start. No Laurie Strode. You know, maybe she can be referenced or whatever, but just Michael Myers and new protagonists. That I would dig. If we're not going to get 1963, then give us a fresh start with Michael and new characters. I would be okay with that. And honestly, if you're going with the fresh start route, I don't know if it makes sense to go back to 1963, which is why, for me, it's kind of like one or the other. My dream will always be a better sequel to Halloween 4, but that's not going to happen. The question is, Do you guys want to see Halloween go back to 1963? And if you do, what are you looking to see? What are you hoping to see? What is the reason for you to take the franchise back to 1963? It's obviously a year that a lot of people have wanted to see a lot more of. They still have it in their back pocket. And I'd be very, very intrigued to see what they can do with it. That being said, they've now tried it 3 different times where they were pursuing some element of 1963 in a film, and it hasn't panned out. So maybe you don't go that route. You just say, you know what, we tried to go there 3 different times on 3 different movies, and it just didn't work out. That's not what I want. I would love to see it if done right. Again, you can't do it just for the sake of doing it. So never say never, Sean. Oh, fuck, I just said it twice. Never, never, never. There, I said it 3 times. Yeah, by the way, if you haven't yet, take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, slash that bell to keep up to date with everything we got going on around here. We've been doing things a little more frequently. Tomorrow night we'll be live probably around 10 p.m. Eastern with a review of Star Wars Ahsoka Episode 4. Half the season will be done just like that. So looking forward to that. Just going to go into the chat. What are you guys saying about 1963 here? Well, Toronto Friday says, I think Ends is a far superior film to Kills. It is literally the only film in the new trilogy that has a character with a proper arc. Yeah, I think for me, though, it runs into the problem that you already mentioned, that the character just comes out of nowhere, which for me kind of sells the character short, to be honest. There was so much more potential there. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's easy to look back and be a Monday morning quarterback and say maybe they should have done this instead of something else. But I don't know. Like, I firmly stand by my opinion of, if Halloween Ends is just a standalone movie with no expectations to draw back to previous movies, I think it's really probably really good, to be honest. The score is fantastic. The acting is the best in the trilogy. The cinematography stands out to me in this movie a lot compared to the other 2. But there's just, for me, too many elements that don't line up with the previous 2 movies, which is unfortunate, because then not only does it hurt the other 2 movies, it hurts itself. They're supposed to stand together as a trilogy in unison, rather than 3 movies that are, 2 that are strongly tied together and 1 that isn't. That was, as we all know now, that was never the plan to begin with, but they went away from that. So yeah, for me, Halloween Ends will always be the what could have been movie. But if you love it, then you love it. Fuck what anybody else thinks about it. I'm the guy that thinks Halloween 4 is just a much more fun watch, and honestly, I get more enjoyment out of it than the original Halloween movie, and I'm in the minority by a long shot on that one. So yeah, love what you love. I've always said that and stand by it. Mr. Dogman says, still no answers as to what Michael was looking at out his bedroom window. Everyone thought it might be the radio tower, but it was not that. There's a wonderful making of book that's going to come out here in a couple of months, and it's pretty extensive. It dives into David Gordon Green's trilogy, although I would remind people that David Gordon Green's been involved in the making of the book, and so you're really only going to get one side of the story, and sometimes it's not better to do it that way in terms of a making of book. So we'll see what comes out of that. I don't know how much they're going to reveal in that. I'm looking forward to it, and we'll see how it turns out. I have no idea what he was looking at, and honestly, every time I watch Halloween Kills, I don't know what everybody else feels about this. I watched it fairly recently, like within the last 2 months. And it's the first time I'd watched it in over a year. And I thoroughly enjoyed my watch. It has its issues, but there's just a lot of things in that movie that I really, really like. But like more as a fan rather than like if I was to be a critic and judge it, I'd probably take a lot of those points away. But as a fan, I really appreciated a lot of things that they tried to do. And then, like, again, it's hard to separate because we cover the marketing of movies here on this channel, and it's hard to praise Halloween Ends when the studio lied through their teeth to the not just the diehard internet fan, but the common horror movie or Halloween fan with what the movie was actually going to be. Severe mislead in the marketing. They don't need to tell you exactly what's going to happen, but when they sell you a bill of goods that it wasn't, it's not a great look, and it's a lot of the reason why this movie still gets slammed today. So yeah. What else do we got here? All up in the videos says Ends had the potential to be the best Halloween's, one of the best Halloweens ever, but a lot of key mistakes derailed this movie. I would agree with that. Yeah, for sure. Dogman again. See what impact Loomis had on Michael for all those years. Like, what happened? Did Loomis make Myers more evil? I think there's an element of that where you can go, yeah, what was there ever a chance? Was there a small window of opportunity to where if you went back to 1963 and the subsequent years, 64, 65, 66, could obviously a younger interpretation of Donald Pleasance's Loomis, was there ever any sign that you could have saved Michael that he missed? Like, that would be an incredibly interesting twist that, maybe this kid was looking for someone to save him and ultimately it didn't happen. And I know some people hate the idea of that, but I'm just bracing you. They're going to do more of these things, whether it's on the big screen and the small screen next remains to be seen, but expect something different because that's just how the industry works more often than not. And so I think it would be wonderful to revisit that and really honestly add I think Rob Zombie's Halloween one tries to do this. I don't necessarily think it conveys it the best, but like, let's, get inside the character's head a little bit and, just explore what's going on there. It adds a psychological element to the film that, frankly, I think a lot of Halloween movies miss. As a guy who loves The Shining and Doctor Sleep, like, those movies for me are psychological horror movies. And it adds to it. It's not surface level stuff. But then you run into okay, well, if it's going to be a movie, you're worried about selling tickets, and are you going to let your ticket sales drive what you do with the movie, or are you going to, whatever comes next, probably going to be low budget to Matt Whitfield's displeasure. But like, what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to tell a unique, interesting story that dips its toes into psychological horror, or are you just looking for a slasher? And if you're doing a slasher, what are you doing to make it different? How can you separate it from what's already come before? These things aren't cheap to make, even on a low budget. There's so many moving pieces. Toronto Freddy, have you seen Dylan's new Nightmare? Dave McRae effing kills it as Freddy. Dave is a super charismatic guy. If you guys watch his channel, and I have not seen it yet. One day I will get a chance to see it, but it's probably not going to be anytime soon. But I've seen just wonderful things, and I'm thrilled for Dave, and I'm thrilled for Cecil and everybody else involved in that project. And I've seen it get some fairly notable media coverage too. So for fans that are dying for something Freddy, or Nightmare on Elm Street, we're still obviously waiting on something official. And I do believe it's a lot closer than people think, but there's a strike going on. And as long as there's a strike going on, the longer it goes, the longer we will go without seeing new projects. So I think people should definitely go check it out. And I look forward to it when I get a chance to. And yeah, like Dave is, Dave has done Michael Myers short films on his channel. Some of them just been done on a cell phone and look very good. But like if I had to picture Dave McCrae as, playing a slasher or one of the horror movie villains, I would not pick Michael Myers. Not for me anyway. I would think that Dave would kill it as Freddy. I mean, if you've watched Dave, and I've watched Dave since before Halloween 2018, and I've had the pleasure of being on his channel, and he's been over here. The dude has loads and loads of charisma, and people watch because he's entertaining, not just informative, but he's entertaining. And so I totally see him being able to pull that off. I've seen some short clips, and I've seen images. He looks fantastic. Like the makeup job they did is just absolutely wonderful. So I would definitely strongly recommend everybody checking that out when they can. Brendan says maybe they could go back and show Loomis first meeting young Michael and have sessions with him like Rob Zombie's Halloween, and maybe have Loomis backstory at the same time. Yes, see, picture a 2-hour Halloween movie where the first 40 to 45 minutes is that, right? We see Michael kill Judith again, and that leads to everything else. And honestly, I wouldn't start there. I'd start before there. And I'd start earlier in the day, 1963 Halloween day, and I would I would run it honestly right through the sessions. I wouldn't want it to be like Zombies movie. I would try to make it or I try to put as much space between them and or their movie and whatever movie does this next. Yeah, I would definitely put some space against it, because if you're doing it and it's supposed to line up with the original Halloween movie on some level, then I think you want it to feel that way. And obviously Zombies movie doesn't feel that way. And Zombies Loomis is very different from Donald Pleasant's Loomis. And like, that's key, right? Like, you go and cast younger Loomis, you better make sure you nail it, or it's a movie over for Halloween fans. Williams says, it was disappointing when Corey died. I thought for sure he was going to get his own story. His death was so definite. There's almost no way to bring him back. Well, my friend, money talks. And I assure you that if they want to go that route, there's always the possibility to do something. And I wouldn't be against that. But I don't know. I don't see him ever getting his own movie. I could see like a little short limited series or something. If everyone just left Michael the fuck alone and let him go home and stare at the window, they could have avoided all the carnage. Killing me over here, dude. Wow. Dean Renner's in the house. What's going on, man? William says, I think it could be really good, but I don't have much faith in anyone to come up with anything really good. If done right, it could be cool. And then Freddie adds in that Dylan's New Nightmare is apparently at about 100,000 views, which is really remarkable. So congrats to those guys over there. You guys can bring the discussion back to Halloween if you want. You can support the channel simply by clicking the like button, leaving a comment, subscribing, slashing the bell. If you want to do it on another level, you can send in a super chat, or you can check us out on social media, X, Twitter, whatever. Fandom Empire Now. Facebook's The Legacy of Halloween. That's honestly, that Dean Renner's been the one steering that ship, and he's done a wonderful job with it. And I've started to get a little more actively involved, and I know some of the people that are in here tonight are from that page that aren't usual viewers of the channel, but we're going to be using that group a lot more to drive our content, and it's been working out well the last couple of weeks, and I've appreciated the engagement. Just a discussion, it's hard to have a discussion in 2023 without the other side blowing up at you and getting all offended and it just turning into some fucking fandom turf war, which personally I have no interest in. Let's shift gears here, though. You want to bring it back to Halloween? Just message me in the chat with a question, and we'll go for another 20, 25 minutes here, or around there, and continue. Next up is Joker 2, which is, I know there were some reports early that suggested, like, while it would have musical elements to it, it would still be very story driven, but it's come out that a lot of the movie is a musical. And Dean Renner and I have been going back and forth on this a little bit today. And I'm not somebody who's turned off at the idea that the Joker sequel is going to be a musical. Frankly, you probably had to do something like that to get Joaquin Phoenix to agree to come back. Joaquin Phoenix is literally Mr. Anti-sequel. If you've ever heard any of his interviews and his thoughts on sequels, they're not positive, and ultimately that's what led to him turning down Doctor Strange. So I don't mind it. What do you guys think? Are you guys turned off that Joker 2 is going to be a rated R musical, or does that make you kind of wonder how they're going to pull this off? I like musicals. I was telling Dean this earlier today. The part that scares me is I think that there's a lot of really bad musicals out there that I have no interest in having to sit through. Obviously, the tone of the first Joker movie is so grounded and dark and gritty and serious, and it feels lived in. And I think it's going to be important to embody elements of that movie, even in this musical, so that it actually still feels like a sequel to it. Again, I'm okay with it as long as they pull it off. I'm worried about it because, in my opinion, there are far more bad musicals or meh musicals than there are good ones, and there are even fewer great ones. Said Stannis Baratheon. Points to whoever got that one. But I'm open to it. I hope that they've been up to the task, because you're following up a $1 billion rated R movie, and at a time where the box office for 95% of movies is not bringing in what it used to. So you're already playing with fire. And I want to like this movie. I want to love this movie. I love the first one, but they have an uphill battle against them, and I'm curious to see how it comes out. I'm hopeful. I really, really am. For example, I don't know if anybody has seen it, but Cyrano came out a couple years ago, based off of a book, I believe, or a play. Don't quote me on that one, but it's with Peter Dinklage. And for me, again, and it's not known by a lot of people, to be honest, but for me, Cyrano is far and away the best musical I've ever seen in my life. It's just incredible. And the story it tells too is very deep and very moving, and I really appreciate it. So, like, if it comes off like Cyrano, where not only does the story come across in the music, that's another thing, right? A lot of musicals can come across, it's like, oh, hey, the music's good, but I'm having a hell of a time following the key points of the story and feeling attached to certain characters. Cyrano is attached to multiple characters. I could follow the story, and the music was phenomenal. I don't know if this will be on that level. I hope it is, but we'll wait and see. They're definitely going a dangerous route with this. And yet at the same time, they kind of have to do something. Like I saw The Flash earlier this year. It's one of the few movies I have seen this year. And I got to tell you, I was not impressed at all. I don't know what they were doing. It just felt boring to me, if I'm being honest. And then obviously its box office results were not well. So like DC really needs a win. And I hope they get it with this. I do, but that doesn't mean I want to see Joker 3 and Joker 4. We don't need to oversaturate it. The fact that Joaquin Phoenix is coming back at all is kind of remarkable. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Matt Whitfield says, finally on the road home, the Green Bay Packers suck. I agree. I find it extremely offensive to those who are offended. Yeah, you know, we'll have to wait and see what happens. I mean, hey, who would sign up for a Halloween musical? Now that would be fucked up. You find out the next Halloween movie is a musical. Would you give it a chance? Real question. Toronto Freddy says Roxanne with Steve Martin is a modern day adaptation of Cyrano. Really? I had no idea. The song Roxanne is fucking great. It's such a beautiful, like, if you don't give the musical a chance, definitely give the album a chance. It's incredible. And I'll say this, if you could find a way to do a musical Halloween where Michael Myers does not have to sing, but you build the musical around the rest of the cast, I would be open to it. It would depend who's doing it and how it comes across. Because look, just simple facts are, it's really hard to do any musical, let alone a rated R musical, that is a horror movie. And your main antagonist doesn't talk or dance. Sounds like a mammoth of a task, and I'm not saying they're considering it. I'm fairly confident it will never happen. Mr. Dog says, love the channel. I'm here in England. It's 2 a.m. I'm tired, so good night to all you good people. Hit that like button for the amazing channel that is Fandom Empire. Yes, Mr. Dog Man. Thanks, dude. Feel free to come back out. Lots of stuff going on. And then obviously, hopefully within the next couple weeks, it'll definitely be by October 1, but we're launching a new YouTube channel called The Legacy of Halloween. There will be, at least for the first several months, you're not going to find live streams over there. A lot of them are just going to be editorial type videos, putting things together and throwing it out there and just sort of celebrating Halloween for what it is. And one of the first things that we're doing over there is the inception of Halloween 4, how it came to be. So, and it's work on that has already started. It's just a matter of finding time to finish up. Last but not least, if you're a wrestling fan, you've probably found out recently that CM Punk, otherwise known as Phil Brooks, was fired by AEW after another altercation, this time at All In London. This is kind of deflating for me. I did a brief live stream the other day on my phone. First time I've done that in a couple of years. Was so confused just on how to launch it. But Roxanne is in a musical. Huh. Interesting. I think I'll definitely check it out. I think the reason I like Cyrano so much is it is a musical, and it's just so wonderfully done. I don't know if they go around and doing that, do plays for that, but if they did, I would love to check that out. That'd be amazing. But yeah, CM Punk's tenure at AEW has come to an end. And I mean, I shared my thoughts on it the other day. I'll be brief. There's a lot of blame to wear on both sides. CM Punk's got to wear a lot of it. Look, we all have problems with someone in life, or problems with ourselves. And in 2023, the solution to your problems can't be beat people up. Just can't be. We live in a cancel culture world where if you buy the wrong fucking toilet paper, you'll get canceled. So the situation's deflating for me, and I've been trying to come to grasp why, because it's not like he was the entire promotion. But then I had to think back to when, like, before the first ever AEW Dynamite, it was AEW Double or Nothing. And there were rumors of CM Punk debuting with AEW because he was at StarCast that weekend. So I think right from the inception, and honestly, I'd forgotten this. Not sure how, but I had. Right from the inception of AEW, the possibility of CM Punk existed. And if you were a CM Punk fan, obviously the way his WWE run ended was fucking terrible. And believe it or not, I still think this run ended better than that run, if I'm being honest. But I think I would, even when I first became an AEW fan, there was an element of, yes, CM Punk could go here. And the pandemic happened, and then finally he did go there. And now that's come to an end that is probably going to be followed up with lawsuits, and it's going to get ugly. And I know a lot of Punk fans are hoping that he goes to WWE, and I mean, I kind of do too. I won't be watching WWE regularly, and I won't be watching AEW on the regular anymore either. I think that when your leadership fails on the level that AEW's did, and they had a chance to nip it in the ass a year ago and didn't, shit happens. And it's like you poke the bear again and again and again and again and again. The bear is eventually going to fucking eat your face off. He just is. Doesn't make it right, but it doesn't make you right either. And so all I wanted to do was enjoy my favorite current still active professional wrestler on his show. And now that's no longer happening. And for me, it's made me completely check out. And there's a lot of people that ask if he's going to go back to WWE, and I honestly don't know the answer to that. His stock is not at an all-time high now, despite him being talked about so much. I would like to see it, and I'll just watch the matches he's in, or the programs he's in. But I honestly don't know. I think it's far more likely this is the end of the road for Phil Brooks. And you know what? As much as I want to see him end in a non-controversial way, it is how he's made his career. And despite me wanting to see him perform more, if the dude's happier being at home and not having to deal with childish antics that bring out the worst in him, maybe that's what's best. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But in terms of AEW coverage, there probably won't be nearly as many of it on the channel much of it on the channel moving forward. I'll keep an eye on it. I might get back into it, but as of right now, I'm pretty checked out on it. It's deflating what happened, right? So it is what it is, and we'll see where everything leads to. We have a few questions here, then we'll get out of here. Brendan says, if you could remake any Halloween movie in today's world, what would it be and why? Halloween 2 and I like Halloween 2. Halloween 2 is an excellent movie, but just give me an entirely different take on a continuation from Halloween 1 on that same night. Just something different, something unique. I think it would be interesting. So that would be my answer. Jimmy says, I would like to hear your opinion on this. During Halloween 2018, when the podcaster asked Lori to go see Myers, what would the story look like if Lori agreed and went to see Myers? Wow. That's an excellent question, man. Honestly, I think the thing that would, like, if they have to like come face to face, then I don't think I have a good answer for you. But I could see her going there and getting ready to walk in the room and just having a complete mental collapse, where her emotions have overwhelmed her to a point where like she can't even stand, and she never does go in the room. She was right there, but just couldn't do it. And it's not exactly answering your question, but I always liked the idea. And when it was first playing out on screen at TIFF when I was there in 2018, you really, like, I know it's hard to think back to your first time watching anything, especially if you've watched something 10, 20, 30 times or more. But if you think back to that very initial escape on the bus, I think that it really came across. Again, think back to your first time viewing Halloween 2018, if you can pull that memory, and ask yourself, did you think Lori crashed the bus so she could go hunt Michael because she's that obsessed? I know there's people that'll feel that would have ruined Laurie Strode's character, but not only did I feel like that was setting it up at that time, it came across like that way. I thought it was very plausible that that's what was happening. Obviously, it wasn't, and things moved on. Anyways, that looks like it's going to be it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Please take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, / that notification bell. If you want to support the channel, you can do so on Patreon, patreon.com / Fandom Empire. But if you can't support it financially, there's free ways to do it too. You can check out the Legacy of Halloween on Facebook. You can check out Fandom Empire Now on Facebook. You can check Fandom Empire Now out on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. Yeah, just enjoy the night. Happy Labor Day. Back tomorrow night, Star Wars book review. We might have Fandom Empire Live too. Well, we'll see what happens. In the meantime, enjoy what my opinion is the best version of the Halloween theme. Good night.